I was mentioning earlier my colleague Andy Malinsky. This is one of the pieces we did for Harvard Business Review, how to adapt to American-style self-promotion. And so there's a few strategies that we have that I wanted to just talk a little bit about, because if you do feel discomfort, whether you do come from a different culture or just a family culture, say, that says, you know what, I don't know about this, how do you do it? Probably the most important part, the most important thing is what I call rebranding the act of branding. Because, if it seems sleazy, you're going to feel sleazy, absolutely. But the key thing here is to really understand that what we're doing when we think about personal branding and come up with strategies and whatever, it is about advancing a larger mission. You're doing it in service of something that really is important to you. If you are a graphic designer, if you are a photographer, if you are an event planner, all of these things are things that you care about, you love, you want to share with the world. And so if you know, and you can keep it in mind, that one of the really necessary steps to do it is to make sure that people know about what you can do and that you can find like-minded people, that's really powerful. There's a guy that I interviewed, I write a Forbes blog too, named John Hagel. And one of the things that he said really struck me and stayed with me when I was interviewing him. And he talked about the fact that when we create content or when we somehow otherwise put ourselves out there, when we take that leap and are brave enough to do it, it is like putting a beacon out into the world. It's like we're a lighthouse and we're saying, okay, here's my thing, and allowing other like-minded people to find us. If you want to build a community, if you care about something and want to attract the right kind of people to you, that are the people that you really want to work with, that you really want to help, this is how to do it. There's power in that. The number two thing that I wanted to mention, understanding the zone of appropriateness. This is kind of a funny concept, but basically what Andy has found in the research that he's done is that sometimes when people feel uncomfortable with personal branding, but then they finally like resign themselves, right? Like, oh, I guess I have to do it. Okay, I'll suck it up. And so they decide to do it, and then they like overcompensate. They say, oh, well, I guess I have to be, Mr. Self-promotion now, and they go way too far to the other side. And then everyone's like, what are you doing? And it seems very bizarre, and that doesn't work either. And then, of course, they get discouraged because they say, well, I tried personal branding, and clearly that failed. So we don't want to swing from one pendulum to the other. You gotta get a realistic perspective about, okay, what do you really need to do? Because you don't need to be the person who, in every cocktail party, says, let me tell you about my work. So don't need to do that. How do you do it? Andy actually suggests finding a personal branding mentor. And we'll talk later about the idea of mentorship, but I want to really specifically raise it here just so we can start thinking about it. And maybe you guys at home can start thinking about people in your own lives that this might apply to. So the idea is that hopefully you guys have friends, or possibly, maybe it's not even someone you know personally, but maybe it's somebody whose blog that you read, or you subscribe to their videos on YouTube or whatever, where you respect their approach. You think, I really like what she's doing. That's pretty cool. And you say, well, how can I learn from this person? And really try to think deliberately about, okay, what exactly are they doing? How much are they saying? And in what way? And is there a way that I could model that in my own life? It's, of course, particularly easier if they're in your life and they can kind of coach you a little bit. But even if you don't know them personally, you can find ways to connect and to just interrogate yourself, to ask those questions. And fourth and finally, here's a big one, right? It's really simple about personal branding. It's almost so basic, but this is a place where it's so easy to make a change. If you do one change as a result of this today, I say this to you, people at home as well, all right? One change, one thing you can do to get value out of this, here it is. I go to so many cocktail parties, so many networking events, and you go up to people, and we all know, right, what the questions are. Oh, what do you do? What have you been up to lately? These are literally the questions that everyone asks every time. It's not like it's a surprise. And nonetheless, you're at these things, and people seem absolutely dumbfounded. They have no idea. You say, what have you been up to lately? And they say, oh, nothing much. What have you been up to? Oh, same old, same old. You know, they have these ridiculous answers. And so if you want to make one simple change, every time you go to an event like that, just have one thing in your head. And hopefully the thing that you mention to talk about should have a few different criteria, right? One is that hopefully it's interesting enough that it can spark a conversation with the other person so that they would want to say, oh, that's cool, tell me more. Or possibly they can relate, their own story about it. But number two, if you're able to do this, whatever thing you mention could help spread your brand. Not in a sort of weird, overt way, but just in a way that it's helping to advance the narrative of who you are and the types of things that you do. So if Barbara was going to a cocktail party or a networking event and somebody said, so, what are you up to lately? And, if Barbara could say something like, oh, well, I'm really excited because I'm working on this project. I just got a new client. And so I'm working on a project where I'm doing X, Y, Z for them. And I'm really pumped. And at a very basic level, that's pretty cool because she's sharing something she's genuinely excited about, but it also is implanting the idea in the other person, oh, that's the kind of thing that Barbara does. I thought she made crepes. So, wow, okay, cool.